Not quit. Just haven't been.
Just you haven't done it yet today?
No, I haven't done it in a month, I guess.
Health?
No. Yeah, well, I mean, yes. Yeah, I'm trying to lose weight.
I'm going to focus you up. You ready to be focused?
I am.
Scoop doo, blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh yeah.
Do you wake up like yourself, or do you build into yourself?
That's the meanest question anybody's ever asked me.
It's not mean. You're just a very authentic, unique person. Do you wake up that way, or does it? You find it? Could you
explain what that means?
I don't wake up, Bert. I wake up like this, like, and then I'm
taking
like,
that from Beyonce.
Is that she?
Originally, she goes, "I woke up like this," when she did a collaboration with DMX. Felt good about that. Is that a balloon?
That's good. But like I build into being me. Here, just give it to me. I'll hold it. Here, yeah. But like, do you?
What's going on here?
I have no in my watch.
Oh, your watch?
My
your watch pissed your pants?
No, this thing. I have my thing like this on the drive, and then it.
But why is it?
Because it's wet. I just took a shower.
Gotcha.
So I won't let it touch your couch. Don't worry. But like, do you wake up like you do, like Rick, or do you slowly find yourself as you're making coffee, as you get caffeine?
But what I'm saying is, I could guess what that means, but what does that mean? Wake up like Rick? What does? If I did wake up like this, or if I didn't, what would those both look like?
Like you wake up and you're like, ugh. And you pick your nose, and then you like put it on the bedside, and then I think like that wouldn't be Rick, right? And then as you make your coffee, you're like, I gotta get that. What was I doing this morning?
Yeah, and I go upstairs and I take that booger off.
Yeah. or do you wake up like kind of like dialed into who you are? Like, cause I'm someone who like I'm in a good mood, but I got to build my good mood. It doesn't start right away. And then all of a sudden something will click and I'm like, all right, here we are. We're here today.
Right. Well, I definitely understand the getting in a more positive, more efficient, more present mindset. Mm-hmm. But when I'm not in that place, I don't look at that as not Rick. Let me give you an example with stand-up.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll go back and I'll say, you're right. So maybe there's parts of me that people go, because when I'm on tour with people, they're like, yo, what's up with you? You're like in a weird mood. And you're like, no, I'm not in a weird mood. I haven't had coffee yet.
So you think Bert is what people know of as Bert?
Everyone is.
No.
Everyone is what they know of you.
No. I know of some of Bert. I also know there's a lot of Bert I don't know, and I don't pretend to think this is all it is.
Maybe I'm less insightful, because I think sometimes what I see is what I get, and it's across the board.
There is something to how you do something is how you do everything. Like there is something to what you see is what you get. But is what you see based off what they're showing you, or is what you see based off of the awareness I have and what I'm willing to look at?
Someone said to me, someone was saying to me, but not to me, but they were talking about themselves. And they said, basically, my life was a performative art piece. And we all laughed, and I went, ooh, that sounds a little bit like me at times, because I do not like sometimes how I represent myself.
Example.
Like when I'm over, like I'm not drinking right now. I didn't like the way I was fat, and people that I did not know were making fat jokes about me that like weren't nice. They were like, fuck that guy, he's a fucking fat piece of shit.
Right. As opposed to, I really like that fat guy.
No, or just I like Bert.
Well, I'm making a joke.
Oh, yeah.
Because you said they called me fat, but in a mean way.
No. People can say I'm fat.
I got to explain my joke.
Go ahead.
You got to let me get this out. This is my booger on the end table.
Okay.
This hasn't hit yet. What would be a nice fat joke? Wow, I like Bert. He's so fat. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, you're right.
So maybe it's not them being mean. Maybe it's just them pointing out something you don't like about yourself.
Oh, yeah. Well, I talked. Thank you.
Was that? Wait a minute.
No, that was funny.
Because you laugh at a lot of things that I don't even feel I deserve.
No,
so that one made me feel
that I touched something. It was ironic in the moment.
That was my intention. It was a math joke. I think you look good.
Thank you. I do. I'm very jacked.
Which actually remind that I'm very jacked thing. There's something I want to tell you and show you.
Please.
about you being jacked. But we'll get to it in a moment, but I forgot until just now.
I don't know what I was saying.
You were saying that you don't like the way people...
I didn't like the way I was representing myself. And so, whereas I worked out hard, I partied hard, I did all the work, I was showing up, I was doing everything, but there was still a part of me that maybe I was not being scrutinous about enough, and it was like a really out of control dude, like being like,
What does enough mean?
what do you mean?
You said you weren't being scrutinous enough.
Like I
What would
wasn't
that look
looking
like?
at like sometimes you got to take a step back and look, say, how does the internet see me? Am I really fucking fat as fuck, drinking nonstop? You know, like, and then I just changed. I just decided to stop drinking for a month and get in shape and lose weight and focus on stand up and be like, the thing I love is stand up. You know.
Now, you said you didn't like the way people see you. How would you say people see you?
Right now. I'll tell you the thing that people say to me a lot is like, when's enough enough? That question bothers me.
When's enough as far as what?
Everything. And can you last at this pace? I mean, you're going to die. And I kept taking offense to that because I'm healthier than probably the average American, but I do take care of my health. I go to the doctor and I go to the doctor every 6 months. I have a longevity doctor. I'm like, I work out every single day. That would take offense to it. What I didn't realize is that from the outside looking in, none of that looked real.
Could I ask you a question? Will you tell me if this is accurate?
Is that a halo?
Is that how you see yourself? Look at the face?
No. No, I don't. No.
Do you see yourself like this?
Yeah. Happy.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I think you're on the right path.
Thank you, Rick.
But I'll tell you something else.
You have two different sets of glasses?
This was my therapist glasses.
Oh.
I was pretending I was your therapist.
Oh, that's so funny. I was like, wow, he has legit reading glasses.
No.
I was like, why didn't he just have like transition lenses?
Because now I would have transition lenses because it's more popular.
Yeah.
But there was a time when we were younger where people would make fun of me for transitioning.
Yeah. I won't make that joke. I think Tom made it on his podcast. But yeah, a lot of people are anti-trans.
About anti-trans.
Yeah.
I was just no. I'm just talking about how it could.
Yeah.
How my eyes identify.
No, Tom just did a joke on his podcast that he just sent me. He's got a T-shirt
that says anti-trans.
Don't be anti-trans.
That's good.
Yeah, but he's got transition where they go dark. I think those are ridiculous.
You've told me times that you've stopped drinking before.
I do it all the time.
So how is it different than other times?
No. Yeah, it actually is. I'm smoking weed. I never smoke weed.
Last time we were here, we talked about us doing, because I love weed and I don't drink.
Yeah.
And you said you don't do weed. And I'm like, I want to do an episode where we're both high, but we decided you're going to be drunk and I'll be high. But now I'd like to say, let's do at some point, I love doing podcasts so stoned.
I do too. It makes me giggle so much. It makes me, so
much better.
Yeah, and the things that made me, like, I feel like when I'm high, I'm a little more present. I'm a little slower. Like, I don't talk as fast, and I don't interrupt people as much. I feel like, what's that?
Get me high, I won't talk as fast and interrupt you as much. That's a good shirt. Like to let people know where you're standing at this moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm in a mood, I'll go into the conversation and say, I just want you to know I am in bit mode. And like, if that's not where you are, let's find that out before it starts. And then they're like, let's do bits, or I don't want to do bits. And I go, I'm out.
I love bits.
Dude.
I love bits.
It's the outside of like circumstantial examples. I'm gonna say it's to me it's one of, if not the best way for me to connect with somebody. Like outside of circumstantial, I mean like if you are going through something with someone or something that's outside of the two of you. I'm not talking about those, but just like if we were to go on an elevator and be like, all right, we have 10 minutes. What's the best way when this elevator opens back up? You and I connected. My first and second suggestion would be bits. Ding. iPhone?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
Oh, I guess I got a text from my son. He said I'm the best daddy in the world.
It's very wholesome. What's your son's name?
Honestly, I feel like I've known him for so long, it's too late to ask, and I don't remember, and I don't know what to do. I just call him little buddy.
He's yours?
Not necessarily. I just trying to flirt with you, and I don't have a son. I just thought it would be funny to have you think of me as daddy.
Whoa. What just happened?
What is this? Did you plan this?
That was my heart.
Okay. That's very...
Excuse me. I farted.
Omelet?
Yes. What's your name?
Christine.
Well, Christine, I'm Omelet, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh my God. It is really bad in here.
Yeah. You know who's the best at bits?
Thank you. But who's second best?
Todd Glass.
Dude? Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
the best.
I've had him on a
bits.
couple times. Bit episodes.
He's just, for him, it is about the bit. The hardest I've ever laughed is him and Rory Scovel. I was on a train going from London to Amsterdam. I was in all
Sounds
by
like a math equation.
and there's a train going from Amsterdam to London.
Go on.
On
With
it was-
Fahim, Anwar, and David Spade. What was the conductor's name?
The conductor had $1.20,
Okay.
all in dimes.
When people give riddles, you go like this. Okay. Like you're trying to catch something.
Do you think there's people who do what we do but in riddles? How cool would that be? Like if you got up and you were a riddle guy and you were like, all right, you had a big crowd. You're like, here's the riddle.
Yeah.
You do it and you just watch people go, I got it. And you're like, and then almost you could, do they have riddle guys?
Yeah, but he's a villain.
There's magic dudes are pretty good. They're like riddle guys almost.
I'm talking about the Riddler.
Oh.
I'm really good at riddles.
Are you really?
Yeah, I think it's because I took Ritalin when I was in 3rd grade and I got off it right away. So like it didn't consume me, but it's still part of me. But I'm really good at riddles.
I was riddle.
Oh, and by the way, really quick, I just want to let you know in case you're going to ask, the horse's name is Friday. I have to also declare something.
Shoot.
I'm in a little back to like how we woke up.
Yeah.
Or as Beyonce would and DMX would say, I woke up this way.
Yeah.
I'm in a little bit of a mood. I'm going through a little something that it's not worth getting into, but it's relevant because I texted you. We were originally going to do this time. Yesterday you said, could we do this time earlier?
Yeah.
And I texted you, could we actually even go earlier? And the reason was I was on my walk getting a coffee, and I didn't want to start my coffee until we started this because I didn't want to burn it.
God, that's so good.
And I'm like, I'm not feeling nice. And I said, could we do this earlier so this could happen sooner? Because this already, at least is a distraction. If not, it reminds me about bits and connection. And like, my asking if we could do it earlier wasn't about my schedule. It was about like, I want to be able to talk and play sooner because I don't feel nice.
Really?
And I'm aware of that in the moment where I'm feeling better, at least for now.
Yeah.
And like, I really appreciate this podcast and us doing this. And I didn't know you before podcasting.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling a little sad and grateful. I'm just having a nice time. I'm just like, what is this that we're doing? We're just, hey, you're gonna sit on my couch, and we'll talk about it in a second. There's like, we had a phone conversation before.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, maybe we'll talk about this on the podcast. I'm like, yeah, okay. But like, I don't have anything prepared. I don't have any questions prepared. It was just like, a friend's gonna come over and sit next to me, and for an hour and a half, I get to just feel a little bit better, and then also make money. You know?
Yeah, that is kind of the crazy part of it.
Yeah, stand-up, there's a lot outside of it. There's being on stage, and then there's all the logistics. Yeah. This, outside of, there's editing and production, et cetera, but like, this is just the main thing that literally, if it is draining, which it is just being friends with somebody. And it's like, it's just so nice.
I don't get this. You probably get it more than I do, but when you're married with 2 kids and you got so much going on in your life with just family, you don't get to hang out like this. I really don't speak to Bobby Kelly unless we podcast. Like I don't talk to Tom Segura unless we're filming it.
Yeah,
like
well, also you get to be around him so much. I wonder if that would be different if you guys stopped podcasting. Would you make time for each other?
Oh, we would not. We would not make as much time. I don't even know if, Like, I mean, I'm being serious. Like, I know we've always been close, but there have been times, big stretches where we haven't talked. Like before we started podcasting, and now when we podcast, we talk every day, mostly about business or gossip. We're kind of gossip queens.
Yeah, you're a gossip boy.
I won't know. It's like just interior drama. Like some agent was a cunt to me the other night. It was really bad, and
We'll put his Instagram handle up here.
What's that?
I said we'll put their Instagram handle up here.
Please. I called Tom yesterday and was like, and I can unload on him and he can unload on me. Like he was going through something the other day and he can unload on me. And it's like, and we talk about our wives and like, but if we didn't have a podcast together, I don't know, I don't know how our connection it would be, you know?
I have a few friends that I've been friends with before podcasting that I've become so close to. There's a few, but the ones that stick out because they've been on the most are Adam Ray and Eric Griffin. Love those guys, loved them before, but like we wouldn't have had. Adam has now been coming up on 18 times, I think.
Wow.
Like
he's so funny.
Yeah, that's another, by the way, a bit machine.
He is. He's really good.
What
was going on with you today?
It was relevant to me bring that up because I wanted to talk about what I was feeling grateful about and connect on that. But like, it's not a public. It's nothing. I mean, it's
really?
like not. It's just you have ups and downs, and I'm having a little bit of a down.
I don't see you ever getting sad in my head when I think of when we're going back to like, do you wake up, Rick? I don't see you sad. I see you frustrated. I see you perturbed. I see you really happy a lot in my head, but I don't see you sad. I never think of you sad. I don't know why.
Oh, that's my booger on the end table.
Really?
Well, waking up sometimes. Yeah. I'm a controlling person.
I am too.
I know. As is my mom. So I grew up being able to try and control my shit while also being opposite somebody who's also trying to control their shit. So the dynamic is very comfortable for me. Assuming that the person opposite you who's also trying to do that, there's intention behind it, kindness behind it. Even if I disagree, I know why you are doing this. It allows for a compromise. Or even once you understand somebody's intentions, it's like, all right, I'll put the coffee next to me on the couch. Or like you came in without socks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had socks for you. You go, are you serious? And I'm thinking, are you serious?
Well, I was like, I thought I'll just go to my car and get socks.
Which would have been okay, but your reason was you thought you questioned if my socks were clean.
I will because first of all, I'll back that up. So I am a control freak. I have weird tactile issues. I can't wear underwear. I can't wear certain socks.
Those aren't the most comfortable socks. How are you feeling right now?
I'm thinking about them a lot, but I'm fine.
I have very comfortable socks.
I have an ability. I have an ability to disconnect at times to my little OCDs. Socks is a big one. Socks, and I get made fun of this a lot, but like if you put my sandals, flip flops on, I'm done with them.
Yeah,
I'll never wear them again.
Yeah,
and
if you touch a baby bird.
If you put on a pair of my shoes without socks. Yeah. First of all, I'll never let anyone wear my shoes. No one will ever wear my shoes.
Well, how can they empathize with you then?
How can they? Yeah, it's tough.
They can't even walk a mile in it.
Jesus Trejo and I took a jog one day, and he didn't have running shoes, and I wanted to run, and I had 2 pairs of running shoes.
So you just had to give him one.
And I just gave him a pair of running shoes, and he was like, "Oh, I'll give them back." I was like, "No, man."
If you don't want somebody to be in your shoe sockless, how do you think I feel about being in my home sockless?
I never thought of it. I walked into a guy's house yesterday, and everyone had their shoes off, and I was like, "I'll take my shoes off." He's like, "Yeah, keep them on."
Right.
Because I was barefoot.
You'd rather the bottom of your shoe than the bottom of your foot.
I would not. I don't think. I'm not a shoe guy. We were never shoe families. Like when I was a kid, taking your shoes off was like something crazy you never asked someone to do.
And now it's a hit podcast.
And well, it's so funny. As I walked up here, I thought, "Oh, that's right. I take my shoes off." As I was standing out there, I went, "That's right. I take my shoes off." And then when you said put on the socks, I for the first time went, "Yeah, that actually does make sense." If you're having people taking their shoes off, let's put some clean socks on.
Questioning if my socks were clean felt to me like if anybody is going to ask you to put on socks, chances are they're going to be clean. That would be like you wanting to fuck me but raw dog, and I'm like, will you put on a condom? Like, I care enough to.
No, that's not.
You have to let me finish. You have to let me finish this analogy. Or you get the fuck out of my house. Okay, could you let me finish the analogy? How about this? I'll take your ego out of it. Let me have this conversation with me and a girl. Okay, that would be like a girl saying, "Hey, Rick, you could fuck me. You don't need to wear a condom." And I'm the one who's picky. I'm like, no. We need a condom. And then I pull out a condom, and then she thinks, is that a used condom? She thinks I'm going to use, if I care so much about the condom, you think I'm going to use a dirty condom? That's a great analogy.
It's faulty, and I'll tell you why. And I'll give you the analogy you were looking for. And I should have interrupted you and this spoken over you. The analogy is you're with a girl.
What's she look like?
She is blonde, and she's a little thick. She's a waitress.
Right.
She's a little thick, but she's not as big as she's going to get after she has kids.
Man, you got my attention.
And you pull out a vibrator, and she goes, wait, where'd you get that? And you go, I have it. And she goes, is it clean? And you go, well, yeah. Now in your head, I'm the girl, and I'm going, yeah, but I haven't seen you clean it.
But
and I know that, and I'm
you're missing a very important part.
No one uses a fucking condom twice.
And nobody's giving somebody dirty socks to put on when it's them asking to put the socks on. Here's the thing. If I am suggesting the vibrator because of cleanliness, then it's going to be clean.
Oh, I see your analogy.
The reason I'm asking you to put the socks on...
You're doing it for your own safety.
I'm doing it because I'm wanting to be clean.
Okay, I'm doing it because one time I had a friend who had a vibrator with another girl, and she said, is it clean?
Was she a waitress?
Like, no, that's what the chick looked like. She was a bartender, and she was overweight. She worked at Formosa, and he pulled out a vibrator, and she said, is it clean? And he goes, can you believe, did she ask if it's clean? It's been out. Like, it's been in the air, he never cleaned it.
It doesn't even matter if it's clean. If it's used, you don't use it on another woman. Vibrators to women should be as shoes are to you. If they have been used, unless for some reason...
Dudes shouldn't have extra vibrators laying around.
I'll tell you something. If you're in a relationship, you have a vibrator at your place and at her place to put it on her cunt and to make her feel nice.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
But if you have if you have a vibrator and you're single and you're hooking up with different girls, buddy, you better be able to have a lot of different vibrators. You get rid of that vibrator.
Yeah.
And you could quote me on that.
Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah. Have a drawer.
Or just at least keep the packaging and put it back in the packaging.
No, you're trying to trick the person. That's the thing. I'm not trying to trick you about the clean socks.
I also have a thing about what type of socks I wear. They have to be ankle socks. And these aren't bad socks. They have to be high-end socks.
Those socks, I bought them a while ago. They're $16 a pair.
Yeah,
they're
nice.
Expensive socks.
They're nice.
They're not very comfortable to me, and that's why I have made them the guest sock.
Really?
Yeah.
I liked your socks.
Yeah, these I also have in particular with stuff, and I don't like when they're high on my thing, so that's why I'm going above here. I can handle it, but this was more so about like, I wanted some color in this outfit, and I felt like since I'm solid, I went with a little fun sock.
Interesting. Did you put the necklace on after the outfit, or do you always wear the necklace?
I don't always wear the necklace.
You put it on to accentuate the outfit?
Correct.
So you're like the guys that go in front of the camera and they're like, let's get dressed. And then they get dressed. And they're like, today for trousers, chinos, thrift store.
Excuse me?
Chinos, thrift store.
Thrift store, got it.
What'd I say?
Thrift
store. For a shirt, James Berts. For the shoes, wingtips. For my scent, Joe Malone.
Damn, 4 sprays directly onto skin.
That's what.
Take a hike, buddy.
Those guys, they wear a lot of perfume or cologne. I've never worn cologne. I wore it once to Sebastian's show at the Forum.
That was out of respect.
I told him. I said I put on cologne. He was like,
"What did you put on? Jean-Paul Gaultier?"
No, John Ford. Fuck, that's delicious or something.
John Ford.
Is that his name?
The guy who does the extra button on his suit.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does an extra button.
Yeah, he has a nice. He has a. His suits have like an extra button.
Yeah, I don't own suits.
Well, you don't have to. It's streaming now on Netflix. Incidentally, the 9th season. Here's a little secret.
I read that as Sluts. because I'm dyslexic. I always read it as sluts. I go, what's that? Every time I go, sluts.
Yeah, you sound like the royal family. Does that make sense that I was talking about how they see Meghan Markle?
Yeah, it was a little. You had to do the orthoscopic surgery to connect the tissue, but yeah.
But you said orthoscopic because it didn't leave much of a scar. You're saying you had to do a little bit.
You had to do a little bit to connect it,
right.
but I got it.
I like a joke like that.
Thanks. I like good analogies.
Oh, well, apparently not. Mr. Vibrator. The only analogy
I didn't realize that because I got lost on
but that's
a used condom. No one used a used condom. I didn't realize it was protection.
Well, yes, it was hyperbolic, and I was leading it to make my point. But the point I was making is, if you think that I know you would agree that a used condom is dirty. No one would disagree with that.
No one would disagree.
So I was saying that's how I feel about giving somebody a used sock. Like, I'm not gonna go inside of you with something dirty. I'm not going to ask you to come inside of me, my house, with something dirty.
Yeah, it's like, you know what it is? I didn't watch you unwrap the condom. You just all of a sudden had a fully unwrapped condom.
But the socks were at the end table. They weren't just loose. They were in the...
They were folded.
They were in the
okay,
rows.
So the condom was rolled up, but I never saw the packaging. I was like, wait, where did you get that from? And you're like, it's a condom. It's new.
But that's fair, to ask the question and to assume it's dirty.
Yeah, and that's fair. So I looked at the socks and I went, whose are those? And you're like, they're clean, trust me. And I was like, and you're like, out of all the people, and I was like, okay, I got you. I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you. I'll let you come inside me.
We'll be right back.
And Iris, have I got a surprise for you? A Rick and Goblin Take Your Shoes Off, Marvel inspired from the 1991 trading card series, comic book characters with me as Wolverine, and of course the Goblin as Hulk.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Just something I always dreamed I would have. Oh my goodness, thank you.
For merch, shout out to Scott Hepburn, who put his Instagram handle here.
Scott.
I do trading cards of previous guests.
They're awesome. You can get the whole set of you, me, Mark Ween, and Uncle Bob.
Bobby, I have some merch to turn people into superheroes.
I'd love to do it. I'll be Toad.
Oh yeah, check this out. I posted it on Instagram. People freaked out about this, and we've talked about it before on Bad Friends, but these are TYSO trading cards.
Yep.
Robert E. Lee
As Toad.
and myself
as Sabretooth. Come on, look at that.
That's so cool.
When I was on your show, I showed you these trading cards.
I'd love to be included in the card
Sam, would you like to
game.
be a card?
I would be honored.
Take a look. I never showed you this in person. Look at those cards.
Whoa! Venom. Ooh, I'm honored. I'm not Rick Glassman, but I know where he lives, and he's got tons of these cards and buckets and buckets and buckets.
I don't know if you remember, I asked you if you wanted to be a superhero. Do you remember this?
The Marvel cards.
Yeah.
So sick.
And I have some merch that is the coolest merch of any comedian that you've ever seen.
Really? These are really cool. These are really fucking
Aren't they cool?
See, that's...
Because I collect these. I want those.
If you had a team, get the fuck out. Watch out.
Bye-bye.
And we're back.
Nice.
That was an early advertisement.
What was I going to say to you? I was driving over here thinking about something. Well,
Coffee break?
yeah.
Put a little coffee break music.
This coffee break is brought to you by me, Jerry Seinfeld.
It really is.
It's an amazing drug.
I bet. I wonder why. Like, have you ever chewed cocoa leaves? You can chew cocoa leaves, and it's just like cocaine.
I've never done cocaine.
For real? Mm-hmm. Oh, you'd love it.
I believe that. But you know what else I love?
What?
Bits.
They come so fast on cocaine.
Buddy, they're all over the place for me already.
I bet you would.
I mean, I even threw it away. Like, when we're talking bits and you said cocaine, they come so fast, I'm already throwing away all the vibrator jokes. I have a plethora of coming fast bits, but don't need to.
Yeah.
If I did cocaine, I would have done come fast. Vibrators make you come fast. You know, and people would be like, dude, you're the best. I don't know. Drugs scare me.
I'm going to take mushrooms tomorrow night. We're going camping tomorrow
I want to do. I've never done them. I want to do them.
Oh, for real? I would have brought some.
I have some in my. Although they've probably gone bad. I've had them in my fridge for 2 years now. I've just never done them.
No, they last pretty long.
I'll take them right now.
How you feeling?
Good. Sorry, I thought I had to sneeze. Good.
You know what I've been doing? I've been doing double sneezes lately, where I go.
Kind of like a little mouse after they inhaled some pepper, and the cats they're trying to walk by are sleeping, and they're trying to not wake the cats. So then they put a finger under their nose. I don't believe that. Like, if you ever had a sneeze and like you wanted to stop the sneeze. For whatever reason, I can't even pick.
I don't know why anyone wants to stop a sneeze.
I guess if you don't want to wake up any cats that are going to eat you. But then you go, it's like the opposite of, you know, if you have to sneeze and you can't, you look up at a light.
Yeah.
Is the opposite pretending you have a mustache?
I think it's, I wonder if it's one of those like just things that isn't real, like Quicksand. Like Quicksand was like, it wasn't as prevalent as they made it in the movies in the 50s and the 60s.
Are you talking about in the movie As You Wish?
No.
Because Princess Bride to me is the biggest quicksand, like that type of quicksand thing I think of.
So it was in I think Queen of the Nile. Was it? So Quicksand, I'm really interested in Quicksand because Quicksand porn. So Quicksand porn's like a big thing. So
what is that? If you could finish before you get swallowed up?
No. It's just girls fucking disappearing in quicksand.
How is that porn?
It's because they're naked and it's like struggle. It's like a fetish. It's a fetish. People that are into it are called sinkers.
Women who are dying?
They're not dying. They're just disappearing in quicksand.
What happens then once they get down there?
Who knows?
Maybe there's a quicksand party?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they...
Quicksand isn't like a black hole. You could have an idea. They're not breathing down there.
No. I don't think we take it that far. Here's the point. So fetishes are based on an imprint on you when you're younger. You don't get to pick your fetish. It's an imprint that happened to you for whatever reason when you were younger.
Okay.
So my generation is, I'm a little older than you. My generation.
I'm 23. How old are you?
27. And so we got. Quicksand was a plot device in a lot of the reruns that we saw, like Abbott and Costello and the Three Stooges and like Gilligan's Island, like all the fucking, they used Quicksand because Quicksand was a really big device in like a hit movie in the 50s. And so everyone stole from it and they're like, yo, if we have a problem in the script, let's just throw Quicksand in. That'll kill some time.
Right. And then my generation in sitcoms was, if there was a problem, let's give them a baby.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's, so it's got to be sexual. So like also like there's
How is Quicksand sexual?
Because they would throw the damsel in the quicksand and she would be the one in distress and you see her tits hit the sand and everyone's like, seems to be working on all fucking cylinders. So some people are into superheroes because that was the thing, the little bit of sex they got to see when they were a child, because we didn't have porn. Some people are into bondage because they saw people get tied up.
Do you like superheroes?
I do. I do. Wonder Woman was like my fucking...
Can I show you something that last time you were here, I showed you those trading cards, those superhero trading cards. I want to show you one we have coming up.
That's fucking
Isn't
amazing.
that cool?
That's great. That's fucking great.
Yeah, I figured because like the fully loaded tour and like you're the captain of all. I mean, also it was Scott's idea too. But I'm like, the reason like we think about who somebody could be. The reason I was liking Captain America is like the captain of all these comics around.
Well, I don't know if I'm the captain, but I don't even think I'm even. Sometimes someone asked me about that fully loaded tour and they said, "Can you believe you did this?" We were at New York at the U.S. Open where they did the U.S. Forest Hills. And we're getting ready to do the show, and someone was very complimentary, and they're like, "This is really amazing. You know, can you believe that your brain put this all together?" And I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well," like they didn't take it as arrogant, but they were like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And they go, "What motivates you?" Maybe it's a journalist, I don't know. And I said, "Well, I feel like if I didn't put this together, I wouldn't have been invited. Like that's how I've always felt as a comic. Like I never got invited to Montreal until I was the comic of the year. Like that's when the first time I got invited to Montreal. Other times it was like being my manager plugging me into bullshit shows. Like I never did New Faces. I never did Gala. I was never invited by Montreal until I got comic of the year. I was never in Variety until I got like whatever the thing Variety Award I got.
Do you feel that translates into the way you grew up as well? Did you feel not invited or included in
Yeah,
things?
of course. In baseball, I definitely felt like I was watching people talk about the best player, and I was never the best player, so I always worked a little harder so that I could be in the conversation. I'd be on the All-Star team, but I was hyper aware that even my dad. I remember one time, one of the guys we went pro with, one of the guys who went pro, I was played with him as a kid, and I said to my dad, "How come no one ever talks about me going to college, playing baseball, and going pro?" And my dad just is a very candid, matter-of-fact dude, and he just goes, "He's just different. He's naturally gifted. Like he is." You can tell he just is separated from you guys. Like he's just different. And I was like, fuck. And I remember going like, I want to change that. If I work hard enough, I can change that. You can't. I mean, there's some guys you can. Some guys can. Some guys just work hard enough, they get there, you know. But for me, baseball, no matter how hard I worked, I could never get there. And then I did stand-up for the first time. I was like, oh, I see what you think. Because my dad's like, find your thing where it's naturally your thing. And when I found stand-up, I called my dad. I go, remember Brad Radke's with baseball? This is my baseball stand-up. And he was like, okay. So then he got behind me. He's like, then you need to go after it. But yeah, I never got on a sitcom. I never got cast on a sitcom. I did a pilot once, but it was because I had a development deal at CBS. And I know that people hear this and they probably go, yeah, but you were on Travel Channel. You can point out your success. You always see the glass half empty.
I think people hear this and be like, 99.9% of people don't get those things.
Yeah, right.
999.9.
But we can name all the names that always got it.
Yeah, but I think at least what I'm connecting to about this, and what's interesting to me about this, is less about you never got a sitcom or went to JFL until you were Comic of the Year, but more so the feeling of those things and what that means to you, and to feel not included. And the only way I could, at least my projection on this, is the only way I could have friends is if I make something for those friends.
Yeah, I feel like that.
Yeah, I indirectly, in a way, part of what I'm feeling at the moment is very much connected to that.
Yeah,
but I
feel like I need to be useful to people.
Well,
sometimes.
You do. Well, I think that could be dangerous if you feel that you always need to offer a specific value. More specifically, if you define that value as something as being funny or anything that you think is why you're accepted. But I do agree that as much we only want to be around people and things that offer us value, even if that value is love, connection, especially. But yeah, it's arrogant and narcissistic to assume that we don't need to bring value. You should bring value.
You definitely should. I try to provide value to every one of my friends, and there's people I've had to get people out of my life that provided no value. I remember there was a dude one time where I was really upset. He would talk to me about all this stuff, and then one day I was really upset. I was going on with some stuff, and I called, and he was like, "Hell, hold on. Did you just call me to bitch about your fucking life?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, I don't have fucking time for that. And I was like, okay. So then that's how I know where you stand. If you're my friend, you can call and we can talk. You're my friend. When we talked on the phone, there are people that would have been yeah, I'm not going to, I know how I feel and I know where I stand. I'm not going to have this conversation. But as a friend, I go, well, I don't want to lose Rick as a friend. So I told you this on the phone. I find you very valuable. I find you valuable. You're really insightful, you're really smart, you're really talented, you're really funny, you're a sensitive dude, which I am too, you're quirky, which I am too. These are all values that I enjoy being around, but more importantly, I enjoy having access to. Meaning, if I have something, I can go, hey, Rick, I don't do that often because I try not to ask favors of anyone because I don't want to, because I want to be valuable to them. I don't ask Rogan for fucking favors. I don't fucking ever go. People, I'm always blown away that people are like, hey, can you get me UFC tickets? I'm like, I would never do that because I want him to like me. Does that make sense? I would never leverage my friendship for personal value. The one UFC game I've gone to or whatever was at Madison Square Garden. And I texted him, I'm going to be there. And he goes, you need tickets? I said, I do, but I got them. And he was like, well, let me know if you need any help.
Right.
And I just bought them. I spent whatever.
Do you feel like when you ask people to come on your tour or your Something's Burning or your podcast, and I understand you have people booking that stuff, but you, I'm sure, ask people too sometimes.
I never asked personally. Only because, so like.
Well, let me first finish that question and then explain what you do.
Please.
Is the reason why you don't, and or when you ask somebody else to do it for you, does that feel like asking for a favor to come on your thing?
Yes.
Still?
Right. Still. Because I know also, it's interesting. I know there are people that will sell tickets, that their name will sell tickets.
Right.
And then I know there's people that their name won't necessarily sell tickets, but to my fans, it'll add value to the ticket.
Right.
Like,
are you comparing those? Is there a difference between those two people? Are you saying people that would sell tickets, you asking Shane Gillis would be asking for a favor?
So no, well now it is. But so that's an interesting thing. So back in the day, it wasn't a favor. It was me going, I know
You'd
Shane
be doing him one.
No, I'm not doing him a favor because he's getting paid. Or I'm not doing him a favor. But like when I first started working with Shane, to put Shane on the show, it added value to my ticket because my fans knew who Shane was.
Right.
I don't know if they technically would have. I'm trying to think of an exact place that we worked where this is an example. But like if I took Shane to Red Rocks, it wouldn't double my ticket sales, but it would make the people who bought tickets go like, "Fuck yes." Mark Norman's a great example. Mark Norman now is added value. Like meaning he will move his own tickets.
Right.
If I put him on at Red Rocks, we'd probably add 2 fucking shows. However, there was a period of time that like when I took Mark to Europe for the first time,
did you?
Yeah,
that's cool.
My first tour in Europe, I brought Mark, and he didn't. I don't even know if people. I don't even think people knew who he was then. But I knew that it would make the show better. So then, in those moments, I had Tiffany Haddish on my tour. I knew her name.
Is that the girl from Keanu?
Yeah. I knew her name would sell more tickets.
Right. But I don't want to. I understand, but I don't want to get lost in the question. The question is doing a favor. So you feel like now Shane Gillis, Mark Norman, Tiffany Haddish, you'd be asking them for a favor.
Yeah.
But there are comics who you have on who you don't feel that way. And what is the difference between that? If I were on your thing, I would be funny. No, you wouldn't sell an extra ticket.
I would sell extra tickets.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah, relatively speaking.
I'm not somebody who's like, your team isn't going to be like, yo, you should get Glassman. It's going to help the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right? So what would be the difference between you asking or indirectly having somebody ask a Shane Gillis type who would sell tickets versus a me? Is there a feeling in your mind where this person I'm asking a favor for, Rick, or that type of person I'm not, and what is the different feeling? What is that different feeling of like you saying, I don't want to ask for anything, I don't want to blah, 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 between a me type and a them type?
There's no different feeling. So whenever I do something, I like, so Fully Loaded is a great example. I go through and I just put all the comics I would like to be. The cruise is a perfect example. I'm doing a cruise in October. Right. And I sold it out without any talent announced. And so I just put people I wanted to hang out with. So then I got to pick only people I want to hang out with. But in those scenarios, I write down the people I want to hang out with first. I do legacy acts, which is like a person who I want to watch, who very selfishly I want to watch. Like
would Bobby
David
Kelly be up there?
No, Bobby's too young to be a legacy act.
Oh,
to
me, Bobby is somebody who I like. One of the guys I became friends with through podcasting. I'm like, that's so fucking cool. I loved him.
Oh,
but I understand
he's my
maybe
age.
a similar class.
Yeah, like I'm talking like Lewis Black, Dave Attell, Bruce. They're legacy acts to me. Where they're legends. When I was a kid, I watched them. When I started stand up, I looked up to them, and those guys are selfish hires because I've Joey Diaz is kind of a legacy act. Okay. Like I love watching Joey. And so those are the people that I grab and I go, let's get them on. I always do like I want a legacy act every show and then I fucking force myself on them and pull them aside, and I'm like, I pick their brain about everything. I hope they watch my.
How
set.
does that? So I want to get into that. How does that make you feel? Like going back and I'm asking with the context of in a pretty dramatic version.
Yeah,
the kid in us saying, "Will you be my friend?" Because that's that. I want to go back to that, but also interject.
Let me interject you.
We have a song for interjection.
Inject you.
Go like this? Yeah. Brilliant.
Ooh.
I am projecting the difference between either before this podcast and or if I didn't do this podcast versus now. There are comedian, at least acquaintances and or more, who reach out, they want to come on, and or when I ask, thank you, like they're excited to come on.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I don't feel taken advantage of. But there is a part of me that projects and an insecurity, a curiosity that questions, would this be this way if I didn't? And the data points I have for that are, before my podcast was doing, well enough, these people said no to me, to coming on. But the reason they said no is variable. They couldn't then. They didn't want to make time for it. If you didn't have this podcast, you wouldn't see Tom as much. It doesn't mean you don't love him or wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's just it's circumstantial. And or somebody's starting their podcast and it's getting some traction. They're trying to build a brand and limit what they do. I understand that side of it. I do. But that doesn't exist now with me because I have something that perhaps offers them a little bit of value. Not that this gets the most numbers, but it gets enough, and they'll get a cool clip out of it. So, like, do you want to be my friend? I'm not asking you, but I'm saying, like, and if you don't, that doesn't even trigger me. What does is people, what I'm projecting, pretending they do. Dude.
Someone said something. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
I had a conversation with a good friend of mine a couple days ago about communication and friendship and what does that look like. Safety, what makes me feel safe, what makes you feel safe, how could we offer that to one another if our language is different there. There's like, when you think about love languages in intimate relationships, that feels pretty analogous to me to safety in both intimate and platonic relationships. Like, what are the ways that you feel safe, And I've known for a while that mine is transparency. We're going to get into, I think, and I don't want to wait, I guess we have time, but like something happened that to me on surface, and I'm explaining it for audience to understand too, but like something happened where there was something in your movie. I was getting tons of messages, the carpet commercial, I was getting tons of messages saying, oh, that's so cool that Bert paid homage to that, or did you write that, or all these things where it's like people are saying, not that you stole anything, but like, oh, that's your thing, Rick. And I wanted to write back, no, we didn't work on this together, but something felt uncomfortable about it because I could break it down, it doesn't matter, maybe we'll get into that. But it's just like, I felt like I don't want to talk about this with other people yet. But it did make me feel like I want to acknowledge it, right? Because I felt bad that, like, at least parallel thought, no, that's a coincidence. At the least, I couldn't even say that because I don't know. I wasn't thinking, fuck Bert, this fucking thief. I was thinking, fully being transparent, and this is what I'm talking about, did he take that? Then after I asked that question, I thought, I doubt it. Not no. It was, I doubt it. And if so, was that even Bert? because I have this rug commercial. I've put it in all my podcasts. I put it in your podcast. I put it in mine with me. But I was also like, Bert doesn't watch his podcasts. Bert doesn't edit it. There's a decent chance Bert's never even seen it. If at all somebody even did take it, I don't know. But what I do know is I want to acknowledge it. I would have loved to have done it with you, but we were not scheduled. Who knows when? Also, doesn't matter. Details that I feel are private between us and doesn't matter. But so I had somebody on a podcast who is a mutual friend of ours, and I was like, I want to bring it. I could bring it up here. It felt like safe because to me it felt playful. Like by playful, I mean here's something I want to acknowledge. I don't feel triggered. I want to acknowledge it with a joke, the way you do in difficult situations. But I wanted to make sure you were part of it. We were going to call you. You didn't answer. Blah blah blah. That episode is going to come out. Before putting it out, I'm like, hey, dude, I want to talk to you about something because we talked about it, but you weren't there. I don't know. Do you think this is playful? If not, we should have a talk. We ended up having a phone call about it, and you fairly said, if we do, you want to come on the podcast to talk about it so you could be within control of it.
I've been in situations where people are talking about you, and you don't, and maybe they'll leave out like a tiny detail, and you'll just go, that's a really important detail.
Yeah, it's not
and then all of a sudden, in the internet, it becomes fact.
Yeah.
And you don't get a say in it, or people will say a joke, and then people will take that not as a joke. I'll give you a perfect example. Rogan was talking about a friend of his who drank too much on a podcast. I think they thought he had a stroke. And he was talking about that. And then the internet took it and said, that's got to be Bert. And so now that's fact. And then I actually, Joe called me the day it happened, and we talked about it, about that dude. I won't say that dude's name. We talked about it. And it was towards the end of my tour, and then I stopped drinking, to like lose weight. And then when I said I wasn't drinking, the internet took off with it. And so like little things like that, they're not true. They don't bother you in long term, but like for the short term, someone like myself or you who likes to be in control of things, it does tweak you, and you spend a day ruminating, going, and that's part of the. When I talk about that whole global shift that I went, is like, so that's how people see me. They thought I had a stroke on a podcast. Like that's how they think I could actually have a stroke. I know that they like. So those are the inner dialogues. I know what you're talking about, and I know that you like. So when you called me about it, I said I would love to talk to you about it. So I told our mutual friend. He was like, "So what is the deal?" And I said, he used an analogy to Ferris Bueller. I guess John. He said, you need to talk to Rick. So I told him my take.
I also that's why I reached out. I agree.
And then he's like, you need to talk to Rick. So I was like, I guess they accused John, of stealing Ferris Bueller. Some people did.
Stealing him?
Stealing the movie Ferris Bueller.
Gotcha.
And they go, we wrote a script. They took him to court. We wrote a script, and it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It is entirely a different title. This is the script.
It was Bill Bellamy Takes a Break.
It was whatever it was.
Yeah.
And our friend told me this story. He said, this is why you need to talk to Rick. And then John Hughes let them go through with the lawsuit, and then they brought him to the stand. And he said, here's a book I wrote in 1979 called Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yeah. And everyone was like, why didn't you show that right out the gate? And John Hughes was like, I didn't need to. I knew that I could show it right now.
Right.
And so when we talked about this, I was caught off guard, especially because I was like, oh no, this is. I said in a Rolling Stone article, in 1997, Rolling Stone article was about me. It was a 6.5-page article about the #1 party animal in the country. Mm-hmm. In the article, they said, what is going to happen to Bert Kreischer? That's how they end the article. Towards the end, and I said, I'll probably be selling carpets in East Georgia. It was just a hookup we had. There's a guy who could get his job selling carpets. I don't mean to like, I'm being serious. I thought of this on the ride over here. I don't want to mean to like say like that's a bad job because I know your dad sells carpets.
Well,
but
area
like,
rugs, fine area rugs.
Yeah. And so
if you're looking for just the right flooring, you need choices. And at Marshall Carpet One, you'll find thousands of choices, including carpet, hardwood, rugs, and luxury vinyl. So make the right choice and visit Marshall Carpet One and Rug Gallery. And we promise, with more than 50 years as a family-owned business, we've got you covered!
So, but that was a job we could get. And if you got the job, they gave you a minivan. And then those dudes came back to the game, to game day on Saturday, because it was East Georgia. It was close to Tallahassee. And we would party in their minivans. And so in my default, I was like, I can always get a job selling carpets.
Sure.
And so
you still can, by the way, if you need help.
I bet I could. The writer took that and put it in and said, I'll just make his dad a carpet salesman. And then,
but in the movie or just in the end
in the
credit
movie
sequence? So he's a carpet salesman in the movie as well.
In the movie, he runs a place called Kreischer Carpets in Southwest Florida. Kreischer's Carpet spelled with a K because it's great branding. There's another joke in there, and so throughout the whole movie, he's a carpet salesman. I don't know. My dad's an attorney. I don't know why they didn't make him attorney. I'm assuming because of legalities. Maybe it was easier to make him a working man. I don't know. I didn't write the script. So, and you are correct. I never watched your carpet
And the person who wrote the script watched your podcasts and read your articles.
I'm assuming. I can't speak for him because he is a writer, and I think he's head of the Writers Guild.
There is something that's relevant about this before it gets into a defensive place, which it can be. My feeling was never, Bert stole this from me, I want to get him back or call him out for that. My feeling was, I just wanted to acknowledge, it because, and I think I told you this on the phone, there has been a fair amount of things with podcasts in particular that
you told me a little bit about this.
I have done, and then other people did. Some of it was coincidental. I know at least one of them because I heard it was what it was. That was they did. It doesn't feel
funny because I know that guy, and that guy's pretty quick to call out thievery.
But here's the thing, because people are going to make their implications. It doesn't mean it's the guy. Yeah. Because if your writer, and I'm not saying this, hypothetically, if somebody's writer did steal this, you're the face of it, it doesn't mean you did it. I'm not saying it was this guy or this guy. I just know it's somebody in that camp. I just know that part. But it doesn't mean it's the face of it. And that's a tough thing. If my editor, JonMichael, or somebody else, because JonMichael will never do this, puts in something inflammatory in the edit and I miss it in checking over about you, it's going to make me look bad, but I didn't know, you know? So I feel that way there. So my issue isn't a person or a thing. My issue is just it doesn't ever feel good if somebody does something similar, even if they didn't steal it.
It doesn't. I've had bits.
Please hold on. I'm sorry, but I want to finish that. Sure. What triggers me, or did, and I still don't like it, but like I've gotten used to it, is when somebody then accuses me of taking a thing, and I get comments of, "Oh, I'm ripping off such and such and such and such." An example would be, I have this for my sleepover series. I have this animated video game opening. It's intricate. It's beautiful. Shout out to Tom. It's awesome, right? I'm not the first person to ever do retro 8-bit graphic stuff.
Yeah.
But recently, Barstool did this animated intro for a podcast. Parallel thought, perhaps. Who knows? I wasn't the first to do it. But what I don't like is when people message me when they see my thing, which I've been doing for years, and then their thing that they just didn't be like, I'm ripping off Barstool. And that's where I'm like, fuck that, man.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying Barstools took it from me, but I do want to be able to acknowledge and say, which, I mean, obviously I'm doing it now, so that was subconscious. I wasn't even thinking I needed to do that, but obviously I did. But my thing is saying, like, I've done it. I've done this.
Yeah.
So when
I think I feel, or at least I felt in the conversation like you just felt, because I did know your dad sold carpet. I did not pay attention. I did not put the two and two together, only because when you're making a movie, the last thing you're thinking of really is like
everybody else's stuff.
My dad's occupation. It was like I had so many fish to fry on that my dad's occupation was like, great, cool, whatever. Let's move it forward. There was like one joke, Kreischer Carpets with a K in the movie.
It wasn't just the rug thing. It was the tone.
I want you to understand. Yeah. I want you to understand how I felt and why I was cool with doing this. It's the same way people are saying to you ripped off Barstool. I sat there and told me about this. I went, when our friend,
it'll be bleeped.
Yeah, when he told me about this, I went, you're kidding, right? Like, you're joking. When I got your text, I was like,
but I messaged you before you called him.
I called him right after I got your text.
Right.
I go,
You called him before me.
I go, is this a joke? 'Cause I know you were about bits.
Right.
I go, is this a joke? And he was like, no, it's pretty serious. I went, wait, this is a joke, right?
And we've talked about this, and it wasn't pretty serious.
Well, he said it was.
Well, I believe he believed it was. I don't think he was instigating. I really don't. We talked about that, and I don't want to get in details for people to deduce too much. But, like, it wasn't. It was.
And you know what? Don't put them side by side, and I'll tell you why. I want people to go watch my movie.
Sure.
So you got only. I'm being serious. I would love to see yours. I've seen yours. I will say, and knowing what we shot, and knowing what you shot, yours is better. I see that you're saying. What you're saying is that you went for a motif that we definitely ended up hitting that same motif. I think of cheesy. Like, and that's what you were shooting for. But I liked yours when you showed it to me.
Thank you. But it's not about how good mine is. It is a very similar tone. And I would believe.
I would argue, and I'm just saying this out loud, but I think if your dad had been a car salesman and we had done a car commercial and you had done car commercials, they also would have been in a similar tone. Because there's only a couple ways to sell cars.
Sure.
And there's only a couple ways to sell
Well,
cars.
It's hard to know what inspiration came from
You're totally
it because
right. And
you weren't there.
I didn't write it.
And he may have seen it. He may not have seen it.
He may have and may have not. I will not speak for him.
But the issue isn't you stole from me.
No.
The issue is I want to be able to acknowledge it because I felt uncomfortable not acknowledging it.
Of course. And more, of course, because you're defending. This is a bad analogy, but you're defending the person who, right or wrong, they're saying, did someone commit a crime on you? And you don't know if that crime's been committed on you, but by not acknowledging it, you're in de facto defending them.
And it's not even this person did a crime. It's just also saying, like, yeah, I agree. It is very similar. And if I did do the side by side, especially when you see the beats of it and the listing and it's very similar. However, and the point of this was talking about friendship communication.
I bet I could remember the read. I bet I could. I have a great memorization skill.
I believe you, but I want to still.
There's goddamn carpets in Southwest Florida. Tell him, Dad. Show him. Take your shirt off, and then yeah.
Which, by the way, take your shoes off. Take your shirt off.
Not even remotely close.
I'm making a joke.
Oh my God! I was like, hold on. I was like, wait, am I being accused of stealing? Taking my shirt off?
There wasn't any time where my intention was wanting to.
For a second went, hold on. You know, I've been taking my shirt off for a fucking 15 years.
Okay.
Oh my God, that was the first time I got uncomfortable. Okay. Keep going.
Going back to the conversation I was having with my friend, which has nothing to do with you. Yeah. It was. Friendship to me and relationships to me and safety to me is being able to be transparent and have conversations that make you uncomfortable for the purpose of understanding and connecting.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able, I wanted and want to be able, and incidentally, this is now public. I'm fine with it. I don't like soap opera shit, but this feels very low stakes to me, and also is a example of friends communicating, and that's a big part of what this podcast is.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want to have to say to you, "Hey, Bert, I noticed this thing. So what do you think?" And walk around acknowledging it. I want to be able to say to you, "Hey, here's something I noticed. This is how I feel. Mm-hmm. I'm not making any judgments or accusations on you, but I am going to feel safest if I could say, "Hey, look at this. Isn't this similar?" I'm not saying you did anything, but like, I want to be able to have that conversation, because there's the alternative is to not have that conversation and build resentment. Or some people could have this conversation and it be, what the fuck? Why'd you do this? And I can very much empathize with, if I did the animated intro now and somebody else did that thing before me and I never saw it and they say I stole it, I could empathize. That is very similar, but I had no idea. Mm-hmm. I could empathize with that. But so it's tough to have that conversation because people could get defensive. And I wanted to make a joke out of it because to me, it wasn't about, also, it's a rug commercial for my dad's, not even, well, now it's a real one because they made it and that's very cool. But the point is, it's a bit in my podcast. I'm not making money off this. This isn't my brand. This isn't like my identity. To me, it wasn't that deep until having this conversation, trying to get you on the phone, and then realizing, oh, maybe this, something about it felt, oh, I don't like this. And it was then where I'm like, I think we're going to edit this out. But before editing it out, I wanted, because it's just, you know, it was contextualized. And before I even talked to you, we had everything marked just in case we feel not good about this or you don't, to take it all out. I was going to show you everything. And then once we had the conversation, I'm like, oh, maybe I lacked awareness. Maybe this is, let's have that in person. But even then, and I texted you yesterday, hey, Bert.
You said, we don't have to do this if you don't want to do this. And I was like, no, I don't want, look, I'm maybe obliviously so, but I'm like, I want you to feel the best about it, because I know I didn't do anything wrong.
I felt good after I talked to you.
So I go, if whatever makes you feel good, then and publicly, because I know that, like, I did not, and I'm being serious. I don't read a ton of comments. I will catch a comment here and there, but I don't go into my comments. I did not see anyone. It's in the extras, so I don't know.
It's in the credit sequence.
It's in the credit, extras or whatever. It's at the end.
I got so many.
Yeah, I did not see any.
And we were tagged. And the fact that I wasn't writing back was like, I just knew I had to release some stuff. But after talking to you, and that's kind of what the thesis of this was, is acknowledging, I realized it wasn't about acknowledging it to these people, which I thought it was. And there is something superficial to that, of wanting to be like, I know it's similar, without throwing you under the bus and without accusing something that I know nothing of. But when I realized after I talked to you, I'm like, that's what I wanted to acknowledge. And pardon me for realizing that, you know, which seems so obvious now. I just wanted to say to you, hey man, this feels real similar. If I had to put money on it, it's parallel thought. And then with even better odds, if it wasn't on you in particular.
Yeah.
Because I believe if you did, you would at least ask me.
This is how I'm trying to think of, like, and it's tough for someone to go, like, how did you not know? How did you not think of Rick when a carpet salesman came up? Like, I know that we know comics who sold cars, right? Probably famously so.
I actually don't, but
I can't think of one. But you know, I can't think of one right now.
And if someone said, I would be like, oh, maybe I've heard that before.
Like, like you go, oh, name like a famous comic waiter, like someone who's notorious. Like, there's stories about them being a waiter. I'd go, yeah, I know comics waited tables, but I can't think of I can't think of it right now. So if you said, hey, in this movie, your dad's going to own a restaurant and you'll be a waiter at that restaurant, and then I'd be like, yeah, that sounds fine in my head. And then when someone goes like, oh, you know, Sebastian waited at the Four Seasons, I go, oh yeah, he did.
Well, I'm being defensive now, but it wasn't about your dad being a rug salesman. It
sounded like that initially.
It was about the commercial and the tone and just overall, it was that.
Yeah.
But the reason why I was unsure about having you over, and I was actually talking even with my editor about this yesterday, because I'm like, when I was going to talk to you on the phone, I didn't feel any negativity, nor did I anticipate what is Bert going to say or feel or think. I have learned, not from this stuff, but just relationships, you know, it's easier to not write a story if you're aware that you're doing it. I'm like, I don't know, I just want to talk to him. And then after talking with my editor yesterday about like, oh, is this podcast going to be about this thing? And my initial, no, we're just going to, I'm sure we're going to acknowledge it. We might talk for a bit. We might talk about it for a minute. But then afterwards, I was thinking like, I do not want you to come over because you feel like you need to clean something up or feel obligated. But I recognize that existence. And that's why I sent that message like, hey, we could have this at some point, but let's have it whenever, because I don't feel any urgency. I felt better after just talking to you. So there is a little bit of tackiness of you like, I have to go to Rick's to talk about this thing. And like, I didn't want that to be a thing.
Well, I did feel obligated to do this because as a friend, I don't want you feeling that. Like, I don't want you, like, we talked about this. I've been actually stolen from twice, more times, but twice where I made decisions. One time I made the decision to talk about it, and I wholeheartedly regret that.
Because?
Because because a lot of people attacked me and said I'm doing it for this reason or I'm doing it for that reason.
But how would a lot of people know about it?
Because I talked about it on Rogan's podcast.
With that person?
Nope. With Rogan,
right?
I said this, and it was very public. And I said, it changed the dynamic of my relationship with that person for the rest of our lives. I have not spoken to that person in person since that date, and I've only texted once to him. I wasn't even a text; it was a DM, and so I regret that, because in hindsight I could have just been the company man and not said a word, and I'll never know what that looked like. I don't know if I'd regret that, but I remember feeling that way. I should have said fucking nothing. I'm glad. In hindsight, there are things I'm proud of. I've talked about this in therapy. I'm proud that I stood up for myself. I'm proud that I didn't let people walk all over me.
That's a big one.
Standing up for yourself, because I was not that guy.
I think also
I'm going to tell you a side story that is really sad, but it's very.
Will you remember where you're going with this, or do you want to go back to that side story?
I'm going to go to the side story, and I'm going to explain why that. So when I was probably 12 years old, we were a bunch of boys. We were in the outfield, some bigger boys. And we were out in the outfield just fucking around. And I was the younger of that group. And pro wrestling was really big at the time. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys grabbed me, and he pile drived me, and it hurt, but I didn't get sincerely hurt. And then he pulled out a pair of scissors out of his back pocket, and he held me in a headlock, and he said he was going to cut my hair. And everyone laughed, because it's a big wrestling thing. And he held me there, and he's got fucking scissors in his hands, right? I'm in a headlock, so I'm like 12. I'm terrified.
Yeah.
And he cut my hair. He cut a lock of my hair off my head, and he held it like as his prize. And they all laughed, and I actually didn't think anything of it. I was like, I got away pretty good. I had both my eyes. I didn't get stabbed. It's fucking hair. It'll grow back.
Yeah.
And
so they say.
I got in the car with my dad, and the story got back to my dad, and I just got in the car, and my dad was sitting there fucking silent, and he was like, did you let, what's his name, fucking cut your hair? And I said, what? And he's like, did someone cut your fucking hair? And I was like, oh yeah. And he was like, how the fuck could you let them do that?
Oh, that's a tough thing for a dad to say.
And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, he cut, but well, it's a humiliating thing the guy did to me. And my dad, I think, was like, why didn't you stand up for yourself? And by the way, I just had this conversation with my wife today. She spoke very sternly to someone I work with, and I don't like confrontation. I don't like it. So when I stood up for myself that one time, it stemmed from that guy cutting my fucking hair. I felt like I was being walked all over. I felt like this person had no boundaries with me. He was going to do whatever the fuck he wanted to me. And I talked to good friends, and Rogan being one of them, about my feelings about this. And I came to the conclusion I need to stand up for myself once and for all. I need to let everyone know I'm not weak. Just I'm a nice guy. That doesn't mean you can take advantage of me.
Yeah.
And the next time it happened, very famous comedian stole from me, and it was online. It was online. It was on Twitter. And people were like, Bert, isn't this your joke? And then that person acknowledged it on Twitter, said, yeah, this Bert, you love that joke tonight in the thing.
Wait, what? The person who stole it said I took this from Bert?
Said, that's just, that's Bert Kreischer, just very candidly. And then people started commenting. This is early Twitter.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. The person that stole your joke, they said online, I stole Bert's joke?
They had a TV show, and they said, yeah, if you liked that joke.
That's from Bert.
That's from Bert. And then, and tagged me. And then everyone wrote, how the fuck does that work? Is Bert a writer on this? I had no knowledge that my joke was being used in their TV show. And they just used it and didn't credit me. And I said to myself, if I ever, I've never had anything I loved so much from a comedian that I took it. I've never been in that situation. But I told you, had I had any insight about your dad's carpet commercials or your dad's, I would have flown you to Serbia and had you direct it, and we would have shot it the way you wanted it, and it would have been your first directing credit in fucking a major motion picture, and I would have within a fucking heartbeat, I would have, if I had had any insight of any of that, I would have called you immediately, said, yo, Rick, my dad's a carpet salesman. More importantly, in the end credits, we're going to be doing a carpet commercial. I haven't seen it, but I know you do carpet commercials. I would have done all that, because having had it done to me, that's how I felt.
Is the example that you called the person out before or after the other time where you said nothing?
Before.
And then you realized the next time it happened, you're like, I didn't like the way that went. Now I'll try the other route, which is to say silent.
And I hated it.
And that felt bad.
And I've not spoken to that person since.
So I
haven't spoken to both those people since.
That's the conversation I was having with my friend, unrelated obviously to this, which is, hey, something doesn't feel right with me. And it is going to be confrontational, or there's a good chance it will be.
Yeah.
It is going to be worth it to me to have that conversation, and we did. And you offered to come here, and if you didn't want to, or if you couldn't until after your tour or whatever, that would have been okay with me.
Yeah.
I think that conversation went very well.
I think I will say 2 things happened. 2 days before, I'd had a very uncomfortable conversation with Tom about what you and your friend talked about not boundaries, but about communication.
Unrelated to this.
Unrelated to this. And
about your communication with him.
And yes, I'm not good at replying to people. I'm not good at communicating.
Right.
And what that does is it allows people to feel like I've either I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to say that this is what Tom said, but I'll just say, because what he said is totally different. But it allows people to think that I don't care about them, or I blew them off, or that I saw their text and was like, fuck that guy. It's not what it is. First of all, I get a lot of texts. I do get a lot of texts. Secondly, I have whatever fucking anxiety I have. I'll read a text and I won't know how to reply, and I don't know how to reply to texts. Tom does emojis. They're so good. And I will say this, that Tom said, you are so bad at replying to texts and emails that you then fuck me up, and I wonder, did I do something? Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I just don't. I'm just bad. And he goes, just say nothing. Just give me a blank bubble so I know you read it. And because we're business partners.
It's as simple as call and response.
Yeah.
And when you see something, a message. Now, by the way, you don't owe anybody all of you, of course. But when you see something, if you do think I want to reply, but I don't know what, I don't want to reply, then don't. But if you think I do, but I don't know what to say, or I'll do it later, you won't. And what you do is, what he's saying is, you could just write, I don't know what to say now, but I saw this. Or, okay. There needs to be a response. And you were saying that if you and Tom didn't have this podcast, you wouldn't see each other as much. That's just what being adult is. I mean, my friends, if they don't, I've talked about this before, the friends that I have that live outside of a 5-mile radius, I see 8% less, or 8% as much as the one that, even if I'm close to them, it's just, we're not in a place where friendship is a convenience anymore. When you work together, when you're at school together, when your kids play together, whatever it is, you're forced to be together. It's easy. If not, you have to put in an effort.
Yeah.
You're so busy and have so much effort going on. You're going to have to find who you do that to and or when. But there is something, I'm soliciting, but there is something to, it doesn't take that much to, instead of saying I'm anxious and excusing it, it doesn't take that much to be like, hey, I can't talk now, message me in 2 weeks. But just so they feel heard and seen, even if you only do that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm really bad.
Yeah.
I'm really bad. I mean, I'll look at my phone right now, and I will have 20 texts. And especially if you're famous, you will not get a text back from me. Like Aaron Rodgers texted me one time, and I was like, so much anxiety about that reply.
Saying it wrong?
So anything, and I just don't reply. Julian Edelman texted me.
Well, here it is, Aaron Rodgers, when you see this. Bert wants to reply. He just doesn't know what to say to you.
Like Tom just texted me, and it's okay. Like immediately I go, I don't know how to reply to this. Mass moves mass. The strongest guys are massive. Super light guys are not as strong. You're naturally pretty strong. Don't worry about it. You'll keep getting stronger. And then I go, I want to make sure that he knows that I heard it. So do I do like a thumbs up?
Is this a reference to him talking about your body and you've been working out?
Working out, and we're talking about strict press and like the text is going back and forth. But then when what happens is there's another a little bit of text anxiety I get is I go then. So do I close out our text chat thread? Like,
dude, I mean, I could do a podcast with you about this. I totally get it. I also, a bigger picture of this is he receives things differently than you, and you call things out differently than him.
Yeah.
So there is some, ultimately, I think you already had this conversation, but at a certain point, you could call him and say, hey,
yeah,
what would you like from me? But more than that, instead of just trying to please the other person, that message, if you weren't supposed to respond, if he just left it as a note and put it in your car and that was just it,
yeah,
does it make you feel anything? Nothing big, but like, oh, yeah, I agree, I disagree, thanks, I don't know. Is there anything it makes you feel?
No, I was like, because I was really fucking strong when I was overweight. Like I was like fucking massively strong. and my strict press was through the roof, and then I did strict press yesterday, and it was 175. He's like, that's still a lot. And I go, yeah, but I feel like I'm losing mass. And then he said that to me, and then I was like, oh, cool. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'd rather be less strong and skinnier than strong and skinny.
So that's a positive way of framing it, what he said.
And then I should write back,
hey, thanks. That's a positive way to look at it.
He's my best friend, and I get anxiety about, like, do I have to reply to everyone's text?
No.
Like, every time anyone texts, I have to reply back?
No.
Like, because, especially, and I'm being serious, with famous people, I shut down.
You
texted me about an idea. I think I texted back the first time, and then you texted back.
Well, there was the idea. Last time you were on, we talked about the idea, and when you walked out, it was like set in motion.
Yeah.
And this is something that like I want to do, and you were going to talk to your team about it. So I followed up with you, and you said, "Love it, talking to my team."
Yeah.
I followed up a couple weeks later. I didn't hear back. Don't need to get into it, but it happened a couple times to where it was like I felt.
I don't want. So you know,
put aside.
You know what cage fighters do? Cage fighters write back, and all of them, not some of them. Every cage fighter I've ever met. When they text you, if you don't reply back, they're like, hey, you didn't reply, and I'm starting to get feelings about that shit. And like, I don't know why, but because they're so confrontational.
But that's not I mean, maybe. But I wrote that. I wrote something to you like, hey, man, I don't want to be a bother to you, but this is something I want to get doing.
I think when we were doing this, I was promoting the movie. I was promoting the special. I had like the tour coming up. I had so many.
And I took none of it personally.
I hope not, because.
But it also made me not want to ask you to do this with me anymore. I figured, oh, Bert doesn't have time for me. Which you don't have to make time for me, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And over a couple months of doing it, I was like, hey, Rick, take the hint, which I'm slow to pick up on, by the way.
Yeah, no, our last texts weren't. I mean, I'm reading them, and I'm like, and it's just me not following up. I never ghosted you. They're always like, yo, I'm back in 2 weeks. I'm back on May 5th.
And then I messaged you then, and then I messaged you.
You're good at following through with that.
But that is ghosting me. I believe your intention isn't.
My intention isn't ghosting you.
But
my intention never is ghosting people.
But that's how it makes people feel. And that,
I know.
And you have a choice to be like, I'm sorry, this is what it is.
Yeah.
But I do think there's something to you not texting back Aaron Rodgers and or anything for the... It's all coming from a similar place of you being anxious and you projecting how people are going to see you, etc. This podcast started with how people see you.
Yeah. I wish I was a cool dude. I said this in a therapy the other day. I always wanted to be a cool dude, like a cool dude who just was slick and could text a fucking this emoji and know what it meant, or the head exploding. I just don't. I text the wrong emoji.
Do you remember we were talking about you're like, people see me for this way? It's almost like in a movie the way you're cast in your social circle. You're cast a certain way. It feels like, tell me if I'm wrong, do you feel like you have subscribed to the way you have been cast? And you are anxious trying to control that narrative, either denying the parts you don't like or validating the parts that you do, as opposed to accepting two things. One, you're a lot of those things. And two, you're not going to be able to control the way other people see them. The thing is, and this is what's tough about what I was kind of getting to about the control thing, is I can't control anybody. And that's hard to accept. What makes it easier is recognizing, but I can control me being direct and explaining how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And then if this person doesn't want to come back to me, that's not my fault, and it might not even be theirs. It's a compatibility thing between friendship and or the timing that they're at. For example, when you're on all this tour, pardon me for beating a dead horse here, but you could have said, hey, dude, it's too busy. I can't even think about this. Hit me back in a couple months. I would have then at least felt, which, by the way, can I tell you something? I assumed because I see what you're doing. So I'm like, he's busy. But I also, if you wrote that, I would have thought either I would say, hey, man, I want to get started on this. Thanks anyway. If I need help later, I'll revisit. Or I could have been like, I'm in no rush. I'll hit him up later. But instead, until you even brought this back up, I thought, because when we first did it, we were laughing.
Here's the concept. All right, my special, fully produced special. All right, so put that aside for 1 second. So hear me out. So hear me out. I talk about everything. Name it, I bet you I talk about it. Dude, I got 3 minutes on it's insane.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is, I'm talking about the trans community. I'm talking about how my uncle molested me. I'm talking about all these things. I want to go.
Tell you what I already love.
Yeah.
When you go.
This can't be anything.
Well, here's the promotion part, in my opinion. You know, Chris Rock just.
I want to get on Rogan. I want to get on your mom's house.
I love that idea.
I still think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I also think there's so much value professionally as well as, I guess that's professionally as well, but creatively, that you could help. But I'm like, you're not the guy to do this with me because you don't want to. But
it's not that I don't want to.
But that's what was confusing, because you did want to, and then out of sight, out of mind.
I did want to. No, not out of sight, out of mind. It's just, I did want to, but I only have so many burners on the stove that I can focus on. And I was, and I produced, and at the time we were doing this, and I think I might have told you, I was producing Shane Torres' special. So I had like, I'd already committed the budget to that. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, all right, like there's a lot going on. So I've got all these burners on, and there's things I'm not sharing with people. Like obviously I have a regular, I'm a regular human with like a family, and we have that stuff going on, like trying to find a college suitable for Isla. And I've got those meetings. I got a home night. We got the President's Circle dinner at fucking their school. Like there's like real stuff going on. I mean, I am like people, I guess this comes back. And one of the things I said earlier, people go, can you keep it up at this pace? Maybe the answer is not. Maybe I can't keep it up at this pace. I don't know. I have so much going on at every given moment, but I feel like, and once again, we're going back to another point. If I stop moving, people will just stop caring. So like if I don't work hard, if I don't make other people money, I like look at, I'll give you very candidly, and I talked about this, I hope I've talked about this, but like Louis J. Gomez runs a very successful festival. Legion of Skanks has a festival called Skanks Fest. It's in Las Vegas. It sells out within seconds. It is probably, inarguably, it's the first comic-owned festival ever. I know that. As a comic who owns his own festival,
it is Howie Mandel owned Just for Laughs.
What?
Doesn't
yeah, but he didn't create Just for Laughs.
Got it.
He didn't buy it until after Louis J. Gomez
understood.
Started. Louis. You know, I'm good friends with Louis, and I love Louis dearly. He was on kind enough to do
Fully
Loaded, but like he's a very inspirational dude. And so like when I started Fully Loaded, I really never once thought, oh, maybe I should clear this with Louis. Louis has his own festival, Skanks Fest. Sure. I performed at it.
Sure.
I loved it. I had a blast.
Yeah, that would be like somebody starting a podcast and you needing to clear with them for you to start your own podcast.
Yeah, but people hit up Louis. People definitely hit up Louis.
And did he approach you?
Yeah, he hit me up. And he talked to me privately. He's like, and Louis's thing was, I think he said it, and he was like, and I say this, every comic should have their own festival. If you want to do a festival, I support comics succeeding. And so, Louis was like, but Louis definitely was like, I'm sure if when Louis is not, I don't think he's a guy that gets into comments and reads stuff too much. Maybe he does, I don't know. But like Louis, I bet there was a moment where Louis was like, hey, why didn't he just like help me with Skanks Fest? Or why didn't he, why didn't like,
yeah, you want acknowledgement.
Like he acknowledged that like I was the first person to do this, but everyone counted me down, and I did it on my own in Brooklyn, and now I'm doing it in Texas and in Vegas, and it sells out in minutes. And there were there were definitely Legion of Skanks fans like Bert's stealing your thing, because I took Big J, I took Soder, I took Mark Norman, I took all the dudes.
It's not taking because it's not an exclusive relationship, but I can't understand the feeling and the underlining part of this is feeling seen and heard.
Yeah.
And to do that, you can't be afraid of confrontation. I take that back. You can be afraid of it. That's okay. I just want to acknowledge it. Leave it as is. Okay. You can be... Yeah, if you can put your hand up, thanks. You can be afraid of the confrontation, but you can't let that get in the way of you actually doing it. And I think that... I'll speak for myself instead of you and or your other friends.
Okay.
If I message you and ask you something, or especially if it's following up on a loose commitment that we made, it would make me feel nice if you just acknowledged it and said, hey man, I still think it's a great idea, but I don't have time, or hey man, it's a great idea, but like I won't have time for months. That's all. It's not going to make me feel like, fuck Bert. There's no certain order of words you need to say. I also now, after this conversation, will always have the subtext of Bert wasn't sure if these were the right words. Like I'll appreciate that.
Yeah.
This isn't a contract. This is just call and response. I remember we've talked about before I became more aware of how people see me, and there was I was dating somebody before this, and we were having a conversation, and I was listening to her, and she thought I wasn't listening to her. And the reason she thought I wasn't listening to her is because I was just like this. And she was talking for a while, and she goes, "Are you listening to me?" And I got defensive. I go, "I could repeat word for word everything you said for the last 2.5 minutes." And then I started doing it. And she's like, stop, I don't care. And like I felt like I was showing C. Yeah. But what she was really saying was, I feel like you aren't listening to me. Well, what do you want from me? I asked. And I've made jokes on this podcast about this now, but I don't know if I've talked about the origins. This is it. She goes, well, people will like nod their head or go, So I go, let me try. And I was being silly. Maybe not the best time for her, but like, you know, I'm a bit boy. So then I'm like, let's try it again. She's talking and I'm going, oh, yes. So she thought I was making fun of her. What I was doing was making fun of the device that isn't intuitive to me. But what I am connecting with, because we all have it differently, is it's where I learned about call and response. And like, she doesn't need me to do a certain, she just needs me to respond. And I am telling you, here's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Just saying like, let's talk. Even if you could just wrote like, we got to talk later. And I also can't speak for everyone, but I'll speak for Tom. That would be enough.
That is exactly what he said.
Yeah.
That is exactly what he said. Because I don't ghost people, but dude, you should see my DMs. I don't reply to any DM. Like I actually had to hire someone to reply to my DMs.
Sure.
And then at times when we were in Australia and New York and Miami, I gave that person my phone entirely and said, because we were DMing and texting with people, I said, please just be me because it makes me really uncomfortable. And she had my phone and was replying to, because it was the premiere of the movie and a lot of famous people were texting me and DMing me and they were like, yo, what can I do? How can I help? And I am really bad at asking for things. So I just went, can you just say what I need?
Why do you think you're bad at asking for
things? I don't want you to need, I don't want you to think I want anything other out of you than your friendship.
Why?
I don't, because that's what because I just think this city is like, I've been used so many times. Are
we talking about acquaintances or friends?
Well, what the fuck's a fucking friend these days,
buddy? Like, we've met 6 times.
Met?
Yeah,
we've hung out 6 times.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, just by met, I mean
we met
like
once.
We've been in person with each other. You've done my podcast twice. I've done yours twice. One was Zoom. I think we've met 3 times. Okay. We follow each other on social media. We see things ancillarily every now and then. I think you're a friend. Yeah. You're not my closest friend. But like, I think of you as a friend. If you said to me, hey, Rick, could you take me to the airport? I'm giving just a ridiculous example.
That's a big ass. That's
huge.
That was Patrice O'Neal's definition of a friend in LA. Would you take me to the airport? No. To me, when and Patrice maybe fucked me up, but when I was young, we lived in Scotland for a month together. And at the end of the month, we've spent every day together. We went shopping together. We hung out at night together. We watched Bruce Lee movies at night. He explained hip hop to me. I mean, he knew. We hung out every fucking waking moment. And I said, I'm so glad we got to spend this time to become friends. And he goes, we're not friends. And I was like, what? And he's like, we're people that work together.
He said that to you?
Yeah, he goes, don't ever confuse. And he's like, and don't get your feelings hurt. Like, I like you, but like, we're not like friends. Like, would you pick me up from the airport in LA? And I'd lived in LA and I knew what a task that was. I was like, and he goes, the fact that you even paused means we're not friends. He's like, Bobby Kelly takes me to the airport.
But that's based on love language.
Yeah.
Example. My mom is in town, and actually I think she's on her way over here now, and I was wanting, if we didn't make this earlier, I was really wanting my mom to do the last like half hour with us, and it would have been a great conversation. My mom has to go to the airport today. I say, what time? It's 6 or so, 5 something. I'm going to get my mom an Uber Black.
Oh, I would never take my parents to the airport.
The reason is because it's rush hour.
Yeah.
I love my mom. And if my mom said, Rick, I appreciate that, but like, I really want you to because of this, which she never, I mean, maybe she would, I don't know, but it hasn't really. I would then have the option of saying, I appreciate that, but I'm busy or this, or you know what? Okay. But I'm not going to worry about how my mom's going to see me based on me showing up authentically. Now, my mom and I have very direct, clear communication. There might be someone where if you say, will you take me to the airport? And if I go no, you might feel shut down. What I might have to do that first time is say, no, and here's why. I have this and or this and or this. That might be like, oh, okay. It's not that he doesn't care about me or he's not my friend. It's just, it's a bigger inconvenience than I realized. That only happens if I intuitively know to tell you why, or you are confident enough in your confrontational communication to say, hey, Rick, I want to question this. The way I was feeling with a commercial. Hey, I'm not saying that you need to or you did this, but I want to at least tell you how I feel. I don't believe that you not taking him to the airport means you're not friends. I believe that if you guys aren't able to have that conversation, the friendship isn't strong yet.
Yeah.
So asking somebody for something, a friend.
And a friend will also say no.
You know why? Hopefully, because a friend feels safe telling you how they feel.
Yeah.
And that's why if you said, hey, Rick, I like this idea, but I don't have time for it, I'm not going to think you're unwilling to work with me. If this happens time after time after time, in a small example, like me reaching out, eventually you go like, hey, I'll just go here. But it doesn't mean I don't like this guy or he's showing he doesn't like me. It's just the timing at least isn't right. For you to say no to me and for me to think, well, fuck this guy, that's on me. And for you to be worried that I'm going to say, fuck this guy is taking on responsibility that doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
So like, ask people. I don't have a booker. So like, I have to ask people for stuff, and I still am uncomfortable doing it.
Like so like I would,
but I do it.
I'll tell you this, I would never ask. I've never asked Rogan to do my podcast.
Well, you should.
Nope.
Okay, well then
I want him to know that we're friends.
But that's manipulative.
No, it's not manipulative.
Yes, it is.
I would take this back. I asked him one time. He was like, "Why don't you just come do my podcast?"
Sure.
And I was like, "Okay, that's probably better."
Let me tell you why it's manipulative.
Why?
Because you want to ask him.
No.
Excuse me. You want to have him on your podcast.
Not maybe when I was younger. Yeah.
Sure. When you understand what I'm saying in this hypothetical.
Yeah.
Then,
Okay. Yeah.
At whatever period in time, you wanted him on the podcast, and the way to do it would have been asking. So in a way, you wanted to ask, but the reason you didn't was to control how he felt about you. That's not your job. Your job isn't to control how Rogan feels about you. Your job is to show up authentically and express yourself and let him make his own feelings. You could say something like, hey, dude, I feel uncomfortable asking you because I don't want you to feel like XYZ. You could express that.
So then is it manipulative if I want to go to UFC thing? Because I think this is adjacent. If I want to go to UFC, is it manipulative for me to not ask him for tickets?
Okay, so did you fart?
No.
Because I smell a fart.
Nope.
Okay. Maybe someone's going to fart later and I'm reading into the future. So I think that those are different, but because asking for tickets is something that
it's a lot easier to ask him to do my podcast than to ask for UFC
also tickets. Also people. Let's not talk about the differences because it's irrelevant for the moment. The issue isn't you should be asking people for everything all the time. The issue is why aren't you asking? And if the reason you aren't asking is because you're afraid he's going to see you a certain way, what I would do is say, you said you acknowledged something publicly about somebody who stole, and then you didn't say anything. Neither of those worked. It did work with us because it was acknowledged, and it was acknowledged with empathy and expressing feelings.
Yeah.
You don't even have to ask Rogan to come on the podcast. My challenge to you would be, or for UFC tickets or whatever it would be.
Yeah.
My challenge to you would be saying, hey, Rogan, there's something I want to talk to you about.
I would never. I'm already stopping this. Absolutely never.
Okay, let's pretend it was me then, and the stakes are way lower.
Okay, and I wanted you on my podcast?
Yeah. And let's say it's not Rogan. Let's say it's not Rogan, but somebody who is like, up here. Okay. And you feel like, I don't want them to think I'm one of those people who's mooching. Not Rogan. Right. Somebody. Yeah. Okay. Let's say it's Tom and you guys stopped podcasting years ago and you want to have him on, but you feel bad or whatever.
Yeah.
You could say, hey, somebody, I want to tell you about something I'm feeling. And if are you able to hear it, you could ask. Or if you don't want to be so therapeutical about it, just be like, hey, there's something I want to talk to you about. I've been wanting to ask you on my podcast for like 2 years now, and I haven't because I know how busy you are and how many people ask you for things, and I don't want you to feel like I am trying to get something out of you. But also, I don't like being scared to ask you for something. So I just want to say, I'd like to invite you, if you ever have time or interest, to come on my podcast. And if not, I don't take it personally.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is I'm definitely not scared of asking Rogan to do the podcast.
But do you think it might make him think something of you?
I don't. Well, I'm not. Hang on. There's a difference between, I'm not the guy to do kisses out of nowhere. Like I don't kiss. Like when I was single, I didn't just fucking lean out at a bar and kiss chicks. Not because not because there weren't times where I wanted to kiss beautiful women, but because I don't want to be represented as the guy who takes sexual advances callously. I don't want to be that guy. And so I would watch, and I've watched, and Joe's such a nice guy. If I said to him, hey man, I want you to do my podcast, and Joe's a really bad example, but a great one at the same time, Joe would he'd be like, hey, next time in LA, let's do it. And then I would then go like, I know that he loves me, and he would never say no to me. I don't want to leverage that. I don't like leveraging.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying if you kept asking, me messaging, I felt that way with you about today. I felt like I wanted to have a conversation with you. It went great. And then you said you want to come on the podcast and talk about it. And even then I said, hey, Bert, thank you, and I would love to if you want, but I really don't want you to feel obligated. And then you said, no, but I could appreciate what it's like to be in your position. I said, whenever it's convenient, we'll make it happen. We scheduled it, right?
I told my team, just so we're total transparency, I said, and I said, make Rick Glassman a priority, mostly because I think I live my life, especially now that I've been smoking a little more weed, I live my life a little more in empathy, where I can see myself in other people's positions.
Yeah.
And when you told me how you felt, while I did have a defense to it, I more saw your side to it because I've been where you were more often. And I think when we talk about maybe Joe as an example, I have been in Joe's situation more often, where you do the favor for a buddy and sometimes end up regretting it. I have a good example. I can't use it, but I have a good example. Someone asked me to do a show.
Okay.
And in the moment, I went, yes, absolutely, because I knew I could help them sell out, and I knew they got the door, and I knew then they'd make money. And so I said, absolutely. And then the day of, I didn't realize how packed my schedule was. I said yes in the moment, and it fell on just such a busy day. And in the process of resenting myself, it was coming out vocally like, I got to do this fucking show at the store with ... And everyone's like, why did you say yes? And I was like, I don't fucking know. But then I did it. I had a great time. But then there's those moments of getting in the car, not having dinner with my daughter, Georgia, who's home from college for 2 days because I got to go do this show. All those things don't factor in. I'd rather just be the guy that goes, hey man, if you want to be friends, let's be friends. Like I called friends, like make a phone call if I have something I want to talk about to them, and I want to be on the phone with them. Like I called Ari the other day about something, and we had a nice long call. It was about how I saw myself, and he said, you got to, and it was a great conversation. He said, and you said it actually today too. He said, would you be upset if people called you fat and you had lost 70 pounds, but they didn't know? I said, no. And he goes, then maybe it's hitting you because you really are fat. And he goes, that's when these things hurt the most. And I went,
talking about triggers.
But it was a great conversation. I called Joe right after I left my cardiologist. I was talking to my cardiologist about statins and ketosis. And it's something Joe and I have been talking about. So I called Joe immediately. And we talked. At no
Statins
point
are for cholesterol, but what's the other one?
Ketosis is when you eat. Joe's on what is I think called a caveman diet. It's primarily protein, and Joe was telling me about the benefits of the caveman diet, and I'm pretty much on a caveman diet. I do fuck around with vegetables every now and then, but not a lot. And so, I will never be the person that calls Joe, and I've been in his car when it happens. I've been in his car when it happens. Hey, man, what are you doing? Nothing. Cool. How's everything, Austin? Man, that mothership looks fucking awesome.
How would I get you as a guest if I didn't ask you?
Because, no, what do you mean?
Well,
I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking things. Well, but like I've been in the car and then they go, "Hey man, I'm going to be in UFC on whatchamacallit."
Yeah, man, but
I've watched big comics getting written off by my friends.
But it's not that black and white, man. You were saying you don't even want to text back Aaron Rodgers. You're not having, pardon me for diagnosing this, it seems like you're not having confidence in yourself or in your relationship, because the truth is, I've had people ask to come on my podcast, and I've given them I've said no and or not yet. I've had people ask to be on my...
Never done that.
I have, and I've told them the reasons.
What?
I've had people ask to come on my podcast, and I've been like, yeah, I'm so glad I wanted... I've had people ask to come on my podcast, and I say, dude, check your DMs. I messaged you a year ago, and they say, I never even saw that. It's all case by case. And if you keep asking him, that's different.
Oh, fuck.
You got to go now?
No, I do have to leave soon.
That's fine.
Wait, hold on. Wait, what do you mean? I know, but like...
If I never asked you, you never would have come on my podcast.
Yeah, but I wanted to be on your podcast.
But then why didn't you say, hey, Rick, can I come on your podcast?
Joe, I just said...
Has Joe ever invited you on his podcast?
All the time.
Yes, because it's easier to invite somebody over to your house than it is to say, can I come to yours?
Yeah.
I didn't say, hey, Bert, you asked me, or whoever asked me to come on Bertcast during COVID, and
it was me.
And I was like, yes. I never asked you.
No, I know.
And I've still never, the second time I came on, I didn't ask you. I won't ask you that.
Yeah.
But I've asked you to come on mine.
Yeah, but... Yeah.
So you can invite somebody onto yours and trust that they could say no.
I invite people all the time. It's when I'm a friend of yours, when you're my friend, like I only have like a handful of like friends that know all my secrets.
Right.
All my secrets. And it happens that a lot of them, like, okay, now Aaron Rodgers isn't like my best friend. We're acquaintances probably at best, but like I would never in a million years ask him to be on my podcast.
Okay.
I just wouldn't.
That's fine.
I wouldn't. Like if it came up casually, like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm fucked up about it, but like I just know.
Cut yourself some slack. It's not about fucked up and it's not about judging. It's about it is fear-based.
It is fear-based. I live a little bit in fear because I don't want...
And that's control.
But I told you I have control problems. I had a hard time putting on your socks.
That one makes more sense to me than not asking Rogan to come on the podcast.
No, everyone's gonna hit up Rogan now, and he's gonna hit me up and go, "What the fuck did you talk to Rick Glassman about?" I'm gonna be like, nothing.
Well, then you know what? I'll use this as an opportunity to say, "Hey, Joe, will you come on my podcast?" Because,
dude, I've watched. Here's the other thing, and I have to defend this. I have to defend this a little bit because I think people might think there's a preciousness with being Joe's friend. There's not.
You're acknowledging what he goes through.
I've seen what he goes through so many times. I've seen
such a good analogy.
I could tell you an in-depth one where I watched a dude. I've watched
a dude or a friend of his.
A dude who believed they were friends was like, "Hey Joe, how about you got to get on your podcast? You got to get on your podcast?" And immediately I watched Joe's face go like this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, who? And he's like, that guy. And Joe's like, yeah, I saw that. He's like, and if you ever need a guest, I'd love to do it. And Joe's like, yeah.
People who don't have a podcast don't understand what they're asking, right? People don't get it. People who don't have a podcast don't understand that, unfortunately, there is a superficial side that is business. You need to get a certain amount of numbers. There is a strategy. You can't appreciate that if you aren't in something at least similar. But when you are in it, you get it differently. You do.
Yeah.
So when people ask who aren't part of it, I appreciate...
I've had people come up to me at the store and say, "Hey, man, I want to do your podcast." I go, "Well, I'll reach out." And they're like, "Not Bertcast. I want to do Two Bears."
Yeah.
And then I go, "Cool."
Yeah, no.
I go, "Cool, man." But here's the deal. There are
I'm just checking my mom if she needs that.
There are so many of those people in our business. There are so many. I don't ever want to be confused for one of them. I won't ever be one of those people. They make me sick to my stomach. And even the people that ask for tickets for Joe for the UFC, he's always happy to give them. But I've watched the person that he doesn't like ask, and I go, ooh.
Yeah, but also you could afford a UFC ticket, so why ask?
They can do.
But no, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about you.
Oh, yeah,
I'm talking
yeah,
about the
yeah,
difference
yeah,
between you could afford that, so you don't need to ask him for that.
No.
Anyway, we're going in circles. You got to go,
you're right.
and I have to pee. But what I'm saying is, I would again challenge you to recognize your fear of not wanting to be something is keeping you from showing up the way you really want. And if you, I get it, because even earlier we were talking about lower scales.
Maybe.
Shane Gillis asking Shane Gillis to come on your show now versus me is different because I'm just going back to that as an analogy.
Yeah.
So it's not fair with me, but I'm saying, like, if you ever asked me to do something and I couldn't or didn't want to, just with me, trust that I would say, hey, dude, I either don't want to, or why are you asking? Or how much does it pay? Or I would love to, but I can't. Or I would love to, thank you. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah,
and
I think most people will. I just don't trust. I don't trust that most people are a little confusing, like a little like and
that's where showing up and speaking, communicating directly, and having confrontation and uncomfortable conversations. My friend that I didn't get into enough about yesterday, somebody could be watching that and be thinking. And to me, even though there's passion and emotions and feeling hurt and same over here. Through the entire thing, and I checked into that, was still me saying, I'm feeling so close to you right now. Like, I feel close to you. Bits, I said bits are the best way to, unless there's something outside. That is one of those things where it's just like, hey, if there's something that we have to deal with, there's a saying that I've said before and that I love, which is, some people, you shouldn't fight the other person, you should fight the problem. Let's fight the problem, not each other. Because when you fight the problem, we're on the same team. When we fight each other, nuh-uh, you did this, you did that. Sometimes fighting the problem still is confrontational, but the goal is outside of ourselves. And I understand how you could be scared to reveal, hey, I want this person to do my show, but you do. You do want that person to do your show. Yeah. So why are we? What? So that's okay.
Well, I think my issue is more with less with not asking and more with saying no.
You have a hard time saying no? Maybe that's why you have such a hard time responding.
Yeah, I have a really hard time saying no.
Dude.
I had a hard time texting you and saying, hey, yesterday I was like, because we were supposed to leave, we're supposed to pick up Isla at 1:30 to hit the road.
You wanted to come early.
And I was like, I had a hard time texting you, and I was like, you know what? And in all honesty, I thought, I don't think he's going to have a hard time reading this because I think he would have a hard time sending this.
I sent you first saying, hey, are you sure about this?
Yeah, and I went, the fact that you reached out, I went, hey, can we do it another time? And then you said, and then I said, or can we do it earlier? Or maybe you said that. And I was like,
you said you need to be done by a certain time. I said, do you want to do another day or do you just want to come earlier? And you said coming earlier.
Yeah.
Also, like, if for some reason I couldn't do it earlier another day, I would say, I understand and I can't do it earlier. And then eventually, not that I would feel this way because I don't believe I would, but like a example that is a little extra sensitive, then I don't. Anyway, if that made me feel like, damn, Bert, after all that you canceled on me, I would want to be able to say to you, whenever we talk next, like, hey, I want to just say, like, I understand why you did, but it made me feel like I wasn't a priority, you canceled on the timing, where then you could have said, I understand why you feel that way, sorry, dude. And then that would have been like, thanks, man.
I'm bad at that. I should go to therapy for communication. That would be I would be better than the therapy I'm in. So the therapy I'm in, I just need to I need to learn how to communicate with people because I bite my tongue, I don't say things. My wife and I got into a conversation before I left to come here. I actually had to say, I have to go podcast so we can get on. You're the one that brought this up, honey. But she said that I didn't acknowledge a statement she said and tell her that I was proud of her in that moment. And then later I said I didn't like it, but I was like, well, I didn't like the second part. The first part I was proud of. And it was all about communication. Sometimes I don't know. I'm fucking.
But you'll get good at it when you do it poorly.
New socks would be you should give people socks. You should get a deal with
I've been wanting to get
stacks.
Well, I've been wanting for years to get Bomba's sponsorship and they won't do it because I wear them all the time. So I got to get a new one.
The good one is...
but yeah, I thought about giving people socks when they come in.
The good one is the ones who have all the artwork on them. I have them. They're great fucking socks. They do like Caddyshack. They do the Lakers. They do.
Are they comfortable?
They're really great socks.
Dude, I know you got to go, so let's call it. I also have to pee so much.
All right.
But in conclusion.
Do you feel comfortable replying to people when they say?
I don't always reply, but I also have made it. I used to have to reply to everything, and to cut myself some slack, I thought. I meant when people say, "Hey, this commercial is similar to Bert's." Will you feel comfortable replying to people? Yes. I also might even not, because I feel like I got to acknowledge. Truthfully, that phone call with you did it for me.
Yeah,
I felt better after that.
I'm glad because I know what it's like. I know more what it's like to be in your situation than the current situation I'm in. Meaning, like, I know what it's like to be where you're sitting.
Well, then next time you're in this situation, remember this and just trust that you're allowed to express your feelings. Just try not to be judgmental about it.
So, like, if someone takes something from me, I can then call them and say.
Rather, not if somebody takes something from you. If you think somebody took something from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you think they even might have. Say, hey, man, I'm not accusing you of something, but I'm feeling a certain way, and I just, out of respect to our friendship, I want to be candid with you.
Can I tell you candidly, I had a bit that I said on stage the other night that was fucking pretty amazing. And I was high, and it came out of nowhere, and sometimes you can't trust those come out of nowhere bits. You go, okay, hold on, was that?
I have to have heard that before.
I had to. It's too good. It's too clean.
Was it, hey, guys, my name's Rick Glassman?
No, it was, I didn't say I was fat. I said I was fluffy, and so nothing. And so
it's tough when you're not on stage. You know, you're more just pitching it to me at this. It's a lot of pressure for me.
So I said I never do this because I also don't want to put myself up to scrutiny. Because so I never text everyone. I never text lots of comics.
You said, hey, has anybody said fluffy before?
Yes, yeah.
And what'd you get back?
Gabriel Iglesias was like he was like, are you being serious? And I was like, he doesn't watch enough stand-up. And so you do get the bit I'm doing, right?
No.
You know Gabriel Iglesias' nickname is Fluffy.
Oh, I didn't know that, no. That's why I didn't know.
No, I wasn't. That's not the bit. That's not the bit. That was a joke. Everyone, that was a joke.
Oh.
That was not the bit. The bit was something else. And so I texted everyone. I texted a bunch of comics. And it's scary because you go, I have to. It just came out too clean, but it's so good. And I know I haven't heard this because it's so good. If I had heard this, I would remember this bit.
Right.
And I texted everyone, and then everyone started going, no, never heard it. Brilliant premise.
You got it.
And I was like, fuck yes. But it's because, and maybe it's because of you and Tom, these two communications where I go, I should be not scared to reach out to people and talk to people.
But also make it easier on yourself. You're allowed to be scared. It's not that you shouldn't be scared. Yeah. This stuff's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary to go up on stage sometimes.
I have a harder time replying to text than I do going up on stage.
Well, I'm saying you're allowed to be scared. Just do it anyway.
We should go to the bathroom.
I got to take a Polaroid.
Do you feel good?
I will after I go pee.
Okay.
There's only one more thing I want to get out, and that's my pee. Thank you for coming over. We'll put up your dates and your yada yadas. And
Tops Off World Tour.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, yeah. Don't post this until after the strike's over. Because we talked about the movie. I can get in a lot of trouble.
If I do, I'm going to leave that in so you know it's on me. Because we weren't talking about the movie. We were talking about a commercial.
Okay, good.
So that's on me.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know the rules, but whatever. Okay.
No, yeah.
Right. I love you.
The Writers Guild and the AMPTPCQ, whatever, doesn't get to say that I can't talk to my friend about personal stuff.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have an idea I want to write about that, but I'm going to wait until the strike's over. Theme music. Here, stay there. Let me get out. Holy shit.
Blabbity blue.